Welcome to the BunkaMania Wrestling All in London 2024 post-show discussion, everybody. I don't know why I'm being so energetic like that. It's just how I roll this morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to BunkaMania Wrestling. I am Jeremy Graves. I, of course, am joined by Harriet and Matty Boo. And today, you can tell from the subject heading, All in 2024. It took place yesterday, the 25th of August, 2024, which I will stop saying the year now because that's getting very repetitive. And we're going to be discussing various points of the show, but perhaps an aspect you may not have found in some other circles is the fact that some of us on this call were there in person. And one of us on this call was watching on television. So we can give you unique perspectives as to how things came across both in person and on television. Did some things land? Did some things not? Could you see a lot of things or could you not? We will be giving you all of that and much more. But before we go any further, if you are a first-time listener and or viewer, thank you very much for giving us a chance. You can find us on the various social media platforms and such, and on the YouTube and the Twitch under the name BunkaMania UK. If you're joining us on Twitch and of course on YouTube as well, you can post in the comments your thoughts as we go, and you never know, we may get to some of your thoughts, feelings and or questions as the show progresses. So let's cut to the chase. All in 2024. And also, before I forget, the other person, our other compatriot, our cohort in crime, our supreme overlord, if you will, the not Emperor Smoke of BunkaMania UK, of course, the decadent Mr. Ian Bolton, who said he thought it was 2025. We'll come back to that because right now it kind of feels like it is 2025. But to begin with, to give you folks context, I was at Wembley Stadium. Harriet was at Wembley Stadium. Ian was at Wembley Stadium. And Matty, you got the Triller effect. You got to watch this via Triller on pay-per-view.
From what I understand, I got the best seat in the house.
Yay! So, you know what? It's an interesting topic, that, because I'm very much of an opinion that there is something about being in a stadium or a building live and being part of the atmosphere. But at the end of the day, every show is made for television. And from the perspectives I think we're going to be discussing today, ironically, that will probably be emphasized in various degrees. So, to begin with, and Matty, I want to get your take first, because obviously mine and Harriet's version of this is going to be very different. General overall thoughts on All in 2024 from the at-home viewing perspective.
I thought that from a production point of view, from a television point of view, this was an incredibly good wrestling show. There was no issues. Maybe I had the occasional sort of like buffering, but I think that was more from the venue than internet in itself. I don't know if other people got that experience. But I enjoyed it throughout. I enjoyed the presentation throughout. I sat through 2 hours of the 0 hour and it flew by. You know, unlike the 3-hour extravaganza we had for SummerSlam recently.
I mean, well, that was your own decision, quite frankly, but, you know.
Hey. It was a good time to go make a cup of tea. But which you two couldn't do. So, suck it. I had the best experience. No, I'm joking.
Thanks for joining us, Matty. We'll talk to you next time.
But seriously, as much as you're saying it was made for television, it's got to be said. Now, I've done, in the span of 12 months, maybe a little bit more. I've now done the in-pub, like, shared experience with the, we'll name one of the competitions, the Wrestle Talk watch parties. I've been to one of those. I have been to All In 2023. And, of course, there's actually 4 experiences. Watching it solitarily, on my own. And I've also watched it with you guys in preparation for a BunkaMania review. We actually all sat around and watched it together remotely. Out of all of those experiences, an experience shared is always way more beneficial as the extra garnish on top to your viewing enjoyment than any kind of like solitary viewing. Because, All In, for me, was a brilliant experience. I enjoyed it. I sat through the entire 6 hours, never wavering. I actually forgot that at one point my ass fell asleep and still sat through the experience. I
couldn't clip that.
But this whole entire time, I was sat there watching the television. I went, this is great. This could have been so much better sat with my friends watching it. And
we did miss you, not going to lie.
So, yeah, I did do a Discord live chat over on the UCP. Myself, Cliff Foster, and a couple of other guys. Actually, 2 people that were at the venue also took part in the live chat.
How did they
have signal? They had signal?
I know. So I'll name and shame them. Misha and Reese, the 2 of them did post.
I struggled at times.
Like at one point, Reese was at the Jericho queue, as it's become now known.
We will talk about that.
We'll come back to
the
that.
queue to the toilet. But yeah, seriously, I loved it. My experience was great. Obviously, I had some parts in the presentation that you guys were not privy to, and I appreciate that because I got a chance to WhatsApp you guys to tell you what was happening on the TV end of things as you were there at the venue.
A crucial time for us to have signal.
But the biggest takeaway from this is I missed this year. I'm not missing this next year. By hook or by crook, I will be there with you guys next year.
We will make it happen.
Yay. Yes, we will.
So,
have a full bunker team.
So, Harriet, I want to turn attention to you because obviously we were sat next to each other all night, so we could also give thoughts on being there together and such. But you personally, your all in general thoughts, experience, and such. Thoughts on the show, I should say. Sorry.
I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I did flag a little bit after the casino. Well, one of the main matches. I think it was before the Mercedes Mone and Britt Baker match, but went and got some pick and mix to help pick me up after that. Because throughout the whole evening, it was a great atmosphere. I mean, where we were sat was really good as well. Like we were able to see the entrances for everyone. So we had like a good view of everyone coming in, which was great. The people around us was really good as well. You know, we kind of interacted with a few of them in front, which was cool.
Everyone was up for a good time around us.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, even like to the right of myself and Ian, there was like a guy who was talking with us, especially in the last match, and I think the coffin match as well. But in all, sorry, I haven't got much of a voice, so I'm trying my best to talk.
It's all good.
But in all, it was really good. It was a great atmosphere. I think it was on par with last year because obviously last year was the first time I'd been to Wembley Stadium, so it was kind of like a awe experience in itself. This year, I think because we got there early and then we were able, myself and Ian went off to the box park and then we just like stuck there for a bit and then hung out with like the Wrestle Talk crew and the friends and people and watched a few things. So that was good to do as well. And then by the time we got to the actual arena and then sat down, it was just like, right, okay, this is it. Oh my God. And it just, the adrenaline kicked in. I mean, I will say like some of the matches I truly loved. And Jeremy saw how expressive I got, especially during the coffin match. And the last match, I couldn't stop laughing, but in a good way. But in all, I really love this. And the fact that, you know, announcement wise for next year, I'm eager to go as soon as it's announced, and I know no doubt we will try and arrange that. But yeah, long may this continue because I really enjoy going to these shows now, and plus now I'm starting to get more into AEW and starting to get into the storylines more. I really am appreciative of these shows. So I think last year I was still learning in regards to AEW, so I didn't know fully everyone. But this year, because I knew about 90% of the storylines, I was just thinking, okay, now I can really enjoy this more. And I did. And I'm very appreciative that I was there to experience it.
I echo what you say. This was a phenomenal show to be at live. And one of the interesting parts, and this is going to sort of move on to our next point as we go now, of the live experience versus the television experience. But last year, a big thing that I think we can all take away from it is that The idea that just over 80,000 people were in Wembley was insane to watch a wrestling show. Appreciate SummerSlam had happened decades earlier, but that aside. But just it was a moment in my opinion, for UK wrestling and whatnot, and just the feeling of being a wrestling fan. And this year there was some circle going, no, it's not 80,000, is it? And my thought was, I don't care. I just want to be there. I want to be there at the event, and I think I think word going around is it was just over 50,000 or something in that. And do you know what? Being around Wembley, it was actually in some ways nicer. It was less people because it didn't feel as crammed. It didn't feel as frenetic and frantic in the sense of just trying to get into the building. A lot of, and this moves into the live experience part now. A lot of the organization versus last year, so much improved. Like actually queuing, there was a queue to get in as opposed to a congregation of people figuring out where the line starts. Everything felt far more thought out and just a bit more organized. And even going into the live venue setup, because one of the big differences going into this year's event was that we knew from the seating plan there was a definitive stage setup versus the sort of the traditional center of one of the sides of Wembley walkway, and they made an entrance out of that, as it were, and it wasn't raised. And this brings up perhaps the first big interesting element of the live experience versus the TV element, in that where we were this time, we were directly opposite the entrance, effectively. So at the back of the lower tier was an incredible seat. Ian, I thank you once again for getting that booking when you did, because it was a damn good seat. So happy with it. But there was an interesting thing. So if you look on TV, on the hard camera, you see there's the whole big rigging around the ring. You've got a screen there. You've got the entrance to the left, seas of people. From our perspective, and Matty, I want to see if you can figure out something here. What's missing from our perspective in this photo? So this is our seat, which is an incredible seat. What do you notice is not in front of us above the ring?
People. It's all been
that
tarped
aside.
off. I'm literally just drawn to everything that's behind the stage, so you're just gonna have to tell me, Jeremy.
So there is no the lower third's gone. So there is no big screen above the ring on our side. If I bring it up again, you can now see there is no big screen above, because originally we thought, they might just have the thing on the entrance ramp to show what's going on. But that wasn't the case. And the thing that happens at Wembley Stadium, I've got to get used to that lower third. Apologies, folks. But the other thing that keeps happening, that happens at Wembley Stadium, is they have two giant screens either side of the pitch, if you will, which is above the lower tier, but like at the bottom of the upper tier. And because we were at the very back of the lower tier, where there's kind of a lip where the crowd is, we literally did not see a big screen all night. So, as we'll get onto as we start to discuss the show, when there was an advert playing for something or a video package, or let's say when, I don't know, Daniel Garcia makes a return, we literally could not tell who it was. And this is and fun fact, I literally had brought with me a pair of binocular glasses, and I watched the entire show through them. I still couldn't make out it was Daniel Garcia.
Oh man.
But from a live experience point of view, it was very telling how so many people in the lower tier in front of us and in fact, let me bring up again, and in the floor seats that you can see in front of us there, it was very telling how many people kept looking back up towards us to look at the big screen. It was very telling.
Oh, yeah. You could tell that especially in the Gauntlet Battle Royal, where every countdown, everyone was just transfixed. I thought it was towards the stage.
We couldn't see the countdown.
We heard it.
I since found out that it was people staring directly at that screen to see what the commotion was about.
It was like two motions I saw. It was like people turning around, and then people who was like at the side of the entrance running to the barriers so they can see who was coming in. It was kind of a mix of both. But yeah, and also in regards to announcements, we did have to rely on people shouting up to us to tell us what was happening, especially like with announcements and whatnot. Because where we were sat, we could not see. It was only when, like, for example, one of us had to go get something, that's when we had the chance to look up and see it. But apart from that, yeah, we didn't have much of a choice, but we did have online as well. I think Ian did check a few times announcements and whatnot when he got signal, because I could not get any signal at all. So
yeah, and this also comes into the point where I alluded to earlier, that occasionally we would try and message Matty and go, what just happened?
Yeah.
And that's when we then got updates from you of being like, oh, that makes more sense. But
yeah, indeed.
But I will say though, I appreciate, and I'll bring up the photo again just for the point of reference, I appreciate it kind of makes it sound like I'm putting across it detracted from the experience. It did a little bit, but overall, it kind of looks a bit farther away than it actually was in that photo, just because of the lens and such. But overall, from our perspective, Harriet, we had a really great view all night.
Oh,
uninterrupted.
honestly,
The seats we were in were great. We had actually, I had legroom. Matty disappeared. I had legroom. Like, and from my perspective, being a tall man, it was just tremendous. But yeah, in terms of a production thing specifically, I think, as Ian has said in the chat, a screen above the ring, even if it only showed a few things here and there, it would have just helped us just that little bit more. Especially as well, like in the case of a couple of the matches where a lot of the action was going around the outside of the ring, that made it a bit difficult to see what was going on. But that aside, that production snafu, I still had a fantastic time at this show.
Yeah, same. I will say, it didn't take away from it as such. It was just more, okay, what's happening? But also you were still immersed in regards to the storyline. You know, and obviously you can go back and watch it again, which I'm going to later on today, especially for a couple of the matches. But yeah, I not to say, the screen would have helped, but it's not going to take away from the amazing experience I had with everyone there and with you guys as well. So,
and also just the general setup of the arena, for want of a better phrasing, I actually think I preferred it to All In last year. Appreciating there were less people there, but I just feel like having the staging being on one side of the stadium, and it just kind of feel there was just something about it. I just preferred it, and it might literally be that I can actually see people walking to the ring as opposed to hearing music and waiting for them to get there. But just the overall experience, I loved All In last year. Like, it's still one of my favorite shows of all time. Just everything about it. But I think despite the big screen thing aside, I think from an experience of being there live, I actually preferred it this time. There was just something about it that just really, really gelled with me this year.
Yeah, the organization throughout just seemed like a whole step like higher up than before. I think Tony, take a lot of this with a grain of salt as you would, but during the media scrum, Tony Khan said there was a load of factors. One big glaring one we'll just sort of like we'll sweep past, and you could read between the lines about what he meant about that. But because certain factors were no longer in play from the year prior, it gave it more of a cohesiveness to it, if that was what it means, if you know what I mean. Like,
well, let's just call it like it is. Because Crimea River hadn't happened this year and everything imploding backstage, there was a different aura in general around the show.
Which you could say Real Glass Crimea River was more like, hey, look, there's that's that needle. Watch it break the camel's back, you know? Because that was 100%. Literally building up. Something was always going to happen, and it just so happened to have happened there. That's how I feel about it anyway.
Indeed.
But that being said, for that to have happened, it then made this show much, much better in the long run. That's right.
Agreed completely. So I guess I will ask Matty, before we do a rundown of just all the results, just very quickly, so we make sure we touch base on that. Us having described some of our live experience, does it make anything that happened on TV, from your perspective, make more sense from what was going on in the crowd?
Yeah, because certain things that I've learned since, so like the reactions from the people in the front row on the hard camera side, like I was constantly seeing them get up and like looking in one direction. Like I said, the biggest match where that happened was during the gauntlet, but there was a few times where that happened as well during entrances and stuff like that. I always presumed that was them staring down the ramp, but I then since learned that that was people staring at the screen. Because of course that some other people that were in those rows couldn't actually see the ring, let alone the ramp. Because there's so many people just sat in front of each other, like packed in. You didn't really get a sense of that watching the show. And in fact, the TV production, give or take the odd drone shot here and there, did a damn good job.
We saw a few.
We'll come back to that in a second, actually, because there's a few things that happened.
It did a damn good job of making it feel that there was just as many people at this show than there was last year. And we know that's BS. We know there's a good 30,000 people less in that venue this year. But they did an exceedingly good job. The odd camera drone shot notwithstanding, hiding the negatives and accentuating the positives, as it were. They took the Paul Heyman stance of television production, and I'm there for it.
So, Matty, quick question. Oh, I just moved my desk. Sorry. Quick question. Did you notice at all during the show there were any helicopter shots?
I thought that there were drone shots. I didn't know there were actual helicopter shots. There was
about 4 times during the show. There was a helicopter flying very low overhead the stadium. So we just suddenly start hearing.
Oh,
and we're just like, what the heck is going on? And we looked up and went, oh, there might be some pyro going off soon then.
Yeah. So on that note, I had a mild, it wasn't a disagreement because I can appreciate obscurity of view, but this particular person that I was having this opinion with is, well, let's just say I did a very good job of not making it just like a dick slinging contest. Anyway, I digress. He put it on the live chat to say there wasn't much pyro at the show. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? That, like, literally, they let off so much pyro. And he went, well, I didn't see that much. And like, they literally shooting it all off outside the venue right now. Well, I'm inside the venue, so of course I'm not going to be able to see it. And I like,
were they at the show?
Look
yeah,
up.
they were at the show.
Then they would have seen it. There was so much.
Okay, look. What I will say is this. If they were up in the gods, to be fair, the way Wembley is angled with its roof, they may not have seen a lot of the above stadium pyro. But there is still a lot in the actual arena itself.
Yeah. I may have made a joke at one point that during Ospreay's pyro, it was nowhere near as impressive as Orange Cassidy's.
So
pyro shots. Oh, thanks, Stitch.
There you go. Thank you very much, Stitch. So
there you go.
we will. So I tell you what, let's run down the. Excuse me, my voice is also a bit hoarse. We will also now run down the matches, and then we can sort of progress with the discussion from there. So starting off with the pre-show, there was a 16-team tag match. So try that again, because actually, what I just said is physically impossible. A 16-man tag team match, because if you have a 16-team match, that's something else entirely. There were a lot of people, and this will bear with me. It was, in no particular order, Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and Dante Martin, with Don Callis, with Kyle Fletcher, excuse me, defeating Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Arya Davari, Private Party, that being Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, the Dark Order of John Silver and Alex Reynolds, who were, of course, that team accompanied by Evil Uno and Sonjay Dutt. Those two are a great double act. I don't know if any of that was shown on TV. They were funny. We then had the dream match of Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii taking on Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. I got to see the epic battle between Stokely and Ishii. We may come back to this. It was beautiful. The Von Erichs, that being Marshall and Ross Van Erich, along with Sammy Guevara, Katsuyori Shibata, and Dustin Rhodes, and that team was accompanied by Kevin Von Erich, defeating the Undisputed Kingdom duo of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and the Cage of Agony, Brian Cage dressed as Wolverine, as Harriet pointed out to me in the stadium, as well as Bishop Khan and Toa Leona. Then we move on to the main show, as it were, which began with the London Ladders match. Now, Matty, I must ask, because I've not been able to see, can you please confirm or deny, were the ladders British grade clearly from B&Q, or were they imported from America?
I believe they were imported from America, because the British standard does not dictate there has to be a double-sided step ladder. It has to have the safety rungs on one side.
I call shenanigans.
Yeah.
So yes, but we've got new.
Do not bring up my real life job into this, Jeremy.
I bet it's actually Decadane in the chat.
They should have.
They should have done. So we've got
I'm gonna
new trios champions as well. Oh, sorry, Matty, please continue.
I will stop you there to point out a little bit aspect of what you guys got as opposed to what we got. If you were watching via the 0 hour, the entirety of the trios matches entrances took place as the 10-minute build-up towards the pay-per-view. So
we had a feeling about that given the time.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. So the entrances were literally brought out. I don't think they planned for all the entrances to finish with 1 minute to spare because they ended the countdown early. But it gave me a beautiful chance to stop the 0 hour on Triller and then jump over to the main feed. So that was appreciated. But yes, I think that is a really shrewd idea by them to get people that are just purchased the pay-per-view to have something to watch at 0 hour other than the matches that happened. But you get what I mean. But it also gave people an incitement while the matches took place. So, right, this match is just about to start. What are you doing, you idiot, by the pay-per-view? If you know what I mean. That's not the thoughts and opinions by me. That's the thoughts and opinions of one Tony Khan. But
from a business-orientated point of view, it makes total sense.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic idea. They should utilize that more.
And we've got new trios champions to kick off the show because the makeshift trio, which I hope is now officially going to be a Blackpool Combat Club trio, of Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, who, fun fact, wrestled in Cardiff on Wednesday, flew to Mexico City, won the CMLL Grand Prix on Friday, flew back to London on Saturday and wrestled on Sunday. Claudio, you freaking machine.
They actually said that he flew 4 times that week.
Yep. Well, because he had to fly to Cardiff as well and stuff, so mental man. But hey ho, he's a machine. Actually, that's Brian Cage. Gimmick infringement. I take that back. But Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta are the trios champions, having defeated the Patriarchy, the Bang Bang Gang, and the House of Black in a ladders match. Great to see Pac get the moment. I'm not sure if this was shown on camera, but there was a moment where Brody King actually held up Pac's arm. I'm not sure if that was shown on TV, but
it was shown.
It was such a great moment. And again, this is just a quick rundown of the results, folks. So I'm going to try not to elaborate too much. But Mariah May is the new women's champion, having defeated timeless Toni Storm. We've got a new FTW champion, 3-time FTW champion, I might add, as Hook defeated Christopher Jericho and his entrance featuring Fozzy, which we will come back to, folks, because it was a source of much discussion in the arena. Tag Team Championship match. The Young Bucks retained as they defeated FTR and the Acclaimed, of which we may have to come back to Max Caster's rap because, oh my God, did we howl with laughter over something that he said during that. We then got the Casino Gauntlet match, which I think we're going to be coming back to in more detail because that was a standout match. But ultimately, Christian Cage got the win and has earned a future title shot. The now re-proclaimed International Championship is back because Will Ospreay defeated MJF. The TBS Championship stays with Mercedes Mone as they defeated Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Darby Allin lost his signature match of the coffin match to Jack Perry. More on that later. And retained the TNT title, I should add. And in the main event, title versus career. Bryan Danielson does not retire yet, because he is now the AEW World Champion. Just reading off the results one by one there, my God, this was a good show. I know I was there, and it's a really weird thing to say, but it's not until you kind of just process it like that. Just, oh my God, what a show.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
I think before... Go on.
Oh, no. I was literally going to say, let's sort of start dissecting a few things like standout moments and such. I'll let you talk and I'll lead you straight into a standout moment for you.
So I say as a honourable mention, because I don't think we're really going to talk about this an awful lot, but I think the opening match, the mixed 16-man tag match, This was a chance for a whole lot of people that do not, and I can't stress this enough, do not get as much airtime as they deserve, a chance to showcase their talents. It was chaotic. It was immense. And I loved every minute of it, because when can you say you could see like Kip Sabian give it his all during the match? Like Tommy Billington, who's only just started on the main stage, you know, great talent. Like Rocky Romero, Carl Fletcher, we all know they've got amazing talent, but let's face it, they're not main. Well, they are main card people, but they're good hands, as it were. And I'm sorry, what are we doing with the Beaver Boys? When I say the Beaver Boys, I mean Dark Order, but their previous identity of the Beaver Boys. Because near the end there, John Silver and Alex Reynolds, they put on a heck of a tag team clinic there. You see the combination of moves they pulled in. Like, you do not get to see these people on the main stage at all. And they got a chance to show their worth. And I really, really hope that Tony Khan was watching this match. Because if he's there for the sickos, he know what he must do. Start giving these guys a chance. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Let me tell you a fun story from earlier in the day. So we were kind of like waiting about and stuff and chatting with folks. And suddenly, as we're waiting like outside the Nike store, which is kind of just like a good meeting point because it's like a big like outlet shopping center area, up kind of just randomly walking towards the car park where I'm parked in, but I'm guessing they just didn't take the correct turn to get into the stadium. Suddenly, 3 people walk by. One of them is Alex Reynolds, dressed to the nines in a purple suit. Literally, like, he looks dapper as anything. There is another person next to them who I figure out is Evil Uno without his mask and looks very casual, I'll say. Then behind the both of them is John Silver, who clearly has decided, I'm just in ultra casual mode because he's got shorts, he's got a hoodie, he's got a baseball cap looking like he's a chav or something. He was just very much in, I am not in active participation mode yet. But I knew come that match, it was it was going to be great. I knew it. So yeah, I'm really happy that came across well. The not to just jump on your point here, but another thing. When I mentioned earlier about Evil Uno and Sonjay Dutt, I don't know if it came across on camera, but Evil Uno had the roll of papers that Brody Lee used to hit them with, and they were doing some stuff with that and fumbling it, and from what I could see, it looked great fun.
Not the first dedication to Brody Lee on the show. In fact, if you watched, I think it was Mercedes Mone did Brody Lee's like power slam move during the match as well. So was it that match or was it the other women's match? I digress, but there was a couple of Brody Lee dedications during the show.
Amazing. Yeah. So Matty, another standout moment for you then.
Right, I'm just going to flip through. Are we talking about the pre-show or just the show in general?
The day as a whole, as it were.
Oh God.
Well, let's put it this way. I'll give you an easy lead-in. I know you've been really looking forward to the Toni Storm match. So thoughts on that? Thoughts on how that transpired?
Thank you. It went as well as I thought it did. I think its placement on the card was a bit dubious. I think it needed to be swapped with another match. I think it needed to be slightly higher up on the card because I know she got booed, but Mariah May is the hometown lady there. She is from London Town, so you would have thought that they would have like put more into this. One thing that I will say, as with most Toni Storm matches, a lot of this got heightened by the social media. The media scrum when Mariah May, who had won the match, by the way, she is your new World Women's Championship, and I called that. I called that 2 months ago. Yeah, not that I'm going to toot my own horn or anything. But the media scrum, she turned up wearing a funeral veil and gave an eulogy to Toni Storm. And just basically did not answer questions. She really is the Kirby that has absorbed all of Toni's power and is now just spat it out because that's what Kirby does. In the meantime, on Instagram, and I shared this on WhatsApp, Toni Storm having lost the match, wandered out of the venue, wandered out of the stadium, and went out in the street in her gear towards the car park where Jamie's car was parked. She then stole Jamie's car, drove it round the
it was the car park. I recognised it in black and white.
Back to him, and then just toddled off. I'm guessing all the way back to America. But it was slight little dance and prance she did as she just left.
I love to try and climb the barrier. It was just like casually, I'm just out. Yeah, it was like kind of Joker-esque, kind of like waltzing down the road sort of thing, and Fingerball behind her as well. It's just like, it's just so
like
funny.
a Harley Quinn type thing.
I might have over elaborated by implying, not just implying, just outright saying that she may have stole Jamie's car. She did not, in fact, steal Jamie's car, as far as we know. And if
as far as I know,
was Ian still in the boot at the time?
That's for a different day. So, Harriet, how about you then? What's like a first standout moment for you that comes to mind from the whole show?
Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Thank you. And I will emphasize this. I watched the clip back because I wanted to see how everyone reacted. I wanted to hear it from the audience point of view. It was much louder from what you heard on screen. Believe me, it was kind of. That's where I think I lost my voice the most. Mm-hmm. That and the final match. But oh my god! I mean, I was no one was expecting this, and this is what in the day of wrestling that we live in, secrets are not kept very well. And it's like social media, elaborates things. Like the Ricochet thing pretty much was announced a few days before. So we kind of had a feeling he was going to turn up. Well, we knew he was going to turn up. He did. So this all in all was just like the biggest and best surprise of the whole show. And I was so happy to see him. Because I love him as a commentator. I've never seen him wrestle live. So to see him wrestle live and with Zack Sabre Jr. was... my mind was blown. Truly, truly blown in a good way. And I was just... absolutely loved it. He looked so good as well.
Yeah.
He looked incredible. And I was thinking, what am I watching? This is awesome. But also, what the... So that was my first standout moment of the show. Yeah. There was many, but that's the one that was just like it's up there pretty much.
I want to add a little bit more to what you said there, Harriet. But first, can I just undercut all of this by the fantastic typo my wife has posted on Twitch, where she has said, and I quote, "Sooty."
Bring it up. Do you want me to bring it up on screen?
Yeah, but just in case this comes out on audio as well, we need to read it out as well. But Sooty. I ate the pate.
I don't have a sooty puppet. I have a pusheen. Would that be a good description of like a puppet?
Which is her way of telling me. Which is her way of telling me through the power of Twitch that she has basically eaten our lunch. But instead of sorry, it has come out as a hand puppet bear known as Sooty. So that will live on in infamy. You are welcome, Sophia. But.
You're dead. You're a dead man.
Enjoy your bank holiday, Matty. That's all I'm going to say.
I won't be dead for long because I just need to say this, and this comes literally from the heart. At this point, as soon as he came out and started wrestling, I was emotional. I don't tear up an awful lot often. You may be surprised by that, but I do actually have a bit of a stone heart at times. But Nigel McGuinness is somebody that I have followed pretty much since about 2002, 2003, since the days of the Wrestling Channel. About the same time that I followed Bryan Danielson. And we will get back to that about Bryan Danielson. He was a fantastic wrestler back in the day. His matches in Ring of Honor were absolutely legendary. I think he was sorely wasted in TNA, and I was a TNA fan as well.
Desmond Wolfe, baby.
When it all came out that he had to retire, and for very valid reasons, because sometimes not everything that forces a retirement is necessarily an out injury. There's medical reasons as well. We won't go into it too much. There's a fantastic documentary, which is hopefully still on the WWE network before it goes away, about Nigel McGuinness, and I urge people to go check it out. When he had to retire, it was absolutely soul-destroying. It really, really was, to see this happen. This great, great talent just forced to put away his boots because he could have been so much more in the long run too. And to know his story, to know what he's capable of, he's a fantastic commentator, and I will stand by him. Like, if he continues to be a commentator in AEW, I will fully support that. But just seeing him wrestle in that gauntlet match, absolute chills, because he is fantastic. He should have been a commentator during... This is the one thing I will take away from the Daniel Bryan match, because we've got so much ground to cover there when it comes to that match. I keep calling him Daniel Bryan. I apologize.
If in doubt, just say Bryan.
The one part of the TV production that I think was sorely missed during this whole main event was the fact that they didn't put Nigel McGuinness back in commentary for that.
No Clam Digger Danielson and whatnot.
we had Taz, Excalibur, Shivani, and JR for the main event.
We had a feeling it was JR, but we couldn't tell from where we were.
Yeah.
It needed McGuinness. This whole thing, he even cut a promo during 0 Hour. This whole thing hinged on Nigel McGuinness being in that commentary table for that match, and it didn't happen. For whatever reason, it didn't happen, and it needed to. That's my one gripe about that match. My one and only gripe, other than possibly blood being shed possibly a bit too early in that match. That's all I'm going to say.
Do you mean the main event? Sorry, the main event specifically.
The main event specifically, but taking it back to Nigel McGuinness in that gauntlet battle royal, and I'm sure we've got a few more things to say about that. Two things has always hit me when it comes to wrestling. Number one, when Sting came out to Seek and Destroy last year, that was my guy from WCW. That affected me so deeply. And seeing Nigel McGuinness lace up his boots one more time and wrestling like he never missed a flipping step, that got me. That's
so
really
good.
Yeah,
and like from the Nigel point of view, and this is I'll lead this into talking about the gauntlet as a whole, because I think the gauntlet match was fantastic on this show.
Yes.
So I want to make sure we put... Obviously, the Bryan Danielson thing is the obvious standout moment of the show, folks. We're not dodging around it, but want to give some love to other stuff. But yeah, from my point of view, I've literally seen Nigel McGuinness wrestle in a working man's club in Doncaster in front of like 20 or 30 people. Like, and the various places I've seen him wrestle in Wembley Arena when he was Desmond Wolfe in TNA, like I've seen him wrestle in all sorts, and being able to see that was a proper full circle moment. And Harry, I know you got to meet him yesterday, but my friend Matt, who went with us ultimately, he literally was saying he was there on the retirement tour, like Nigel's original retirement tour, where there were 20 people there in that room. And it was like, for him, that was like a whole, like, proper moment of from 20 people to like 50,000. Like, holy heck. But
yeah,
not to take away from that at all, but this gauntlet match was fan-freaking-tastic. It was such good fun. It was such good fun. Even we couldn't see the countdown like we mentioned. We heard it. So it was the fact that the countdowns, and this is the thing of the Casino Gauntlet, because there's just random intervals and you don't know how many of the people there may be, it just worked out well. So the participant in order was Orange Cassidy, and at number 2, Kazuchika Okada. At which point it's like, I'm about to see this happen. What is going on? Then Nigel came out at number 3. We all lost our freaking minds because we saw him doing commentary. Like when Mariah May won, I think he stood up and nearly had a heart attack or something at the commentary table. We could see him doing something. He was
jumping up and down.
Oh, at one point, immediately, we got to talk about the Mariah May bit just to go back to my standout. In simultaneous fashion, she both went over and kissed Nigel McGuinness, then went over to her mother and slapped her hard on the... And it was a hard slap.
Is that who it was? Because we had no idea who she
We had no clue.
Right.
It was her own mother, which Toni Storm then went over and basically comforted by bringing her to her bosom. Mariah May's mother, Toni Storm, which then comforted her by putting her face to her bosom.
Wrestling.
I love wrestling. So back to the gauntlet. Nigel McGuinness was number 3, Kyle O'Reilly 4, then Zack Sabre Jr. comes out, and there was that thing where we heard the music and we're like, oh, it's someone from TMDK. Who's it going to be? And the screen popped up with Zack, and we all just went, ah!
That's another moment.
Good.
Nigel McGuinness versus Zack Sabre Jr. We were never meant to be allowed to have that matchup.
No.
Holy shit!
So
and
good.
We saw it.
Then Roderick Strong came out, and was so glad Mark Briscoe was in this match, because Mark Briscoe is a national treasure, a world treasure that must be protected.
Mm-hmm.
Hangman Adam Page came out, and at that point I thought, right, Hangman is winning, because to me it made sense for Hangman to win. Then Jeff Jarrett came out, arguably got one of the biggest pops of the night.
Yeah.
And then debuting Ricochet came out, and holy heck, like, not only was it just amazing to see now Ricochet's in AEW and he's all elite, but this is not taking away from anyone in the match or maybe on the roster, but Ricochet in that ring had a different level of aura and charisma. There was something about him, even from where we were in the stadium, just something about him was incredible.
Do you know what it is? From the moment he stepped in that ring, he was allowed to be Ricochet.
Yeah. He did the flippy thing.
Yeah, I mean, he did the flippy thing in WWE as well. He did the flippy thing in WWE as well, but not to the extent that he just let himself go. This is the Ricochet who faced Ospreay about a decade ago.
It was like he was free.
Yeah. He was free to fly and be basically King Ricochet.
Like the wings were unclipped, basically. He was able to do what he wanted. I mean, literally straight away.
Yeah.
He just went full pelter, and it was just incredible to watch. It really was.
Exactly. And then the next 2 participants and the final 2 participants, surprisingly, were Christian Cage, limping a bit from the ladder match earlier in the evening, and then Killswitch, who came out, I'm pretty sure, to a video on the screen that said Luchasaurus, and we were really
His
confused.
old name. Yeah.
And this led into sort of how because earlier in the evening, at the conclusion of the ladder match, just to sort of give the context, Christian was really hacked off at Killswitch, and Killswitch walks out on him because he was being berated. He's like, I'm done with this, and walks out. So then we come here, and we're all thinking, it's finally going to happen. We're going to see this turn happen. No, we freaking didn't, and Christian wins because Killswitch helps him. And as Ian puts it so eloquently, not only in the chat, but also last night, and then Christian won. I
turned around and faced the wall. You were laughing your head off at my reaction, and I think, I don't know how Ian reacted, but I know I just turned around and faced my hand on the wall, just like, oh, no.
More than anything, right? The thing about it from my perspective was, I still love this gauntlet match. It's probably potentially still my favorite match on the show, that or the main event, but it was just the fact this match had been insanely good fun. We were all having an absolute ball. We were at a fever pitch, and then Christian wins, and it was almost just a collective, what?
Yeah, it was just like...
So, during the live chat, when Christian won, Cliff said, well, it makes sense. I went, does it?
In fairness, it does. I hate to say it.
I know now that I processed it. Yes, it does. And also in retrospect, because you know that ultimately, unless he wins it, Christian is the first person they're going to feed to Bryan Danielson.
I think someone in the crowd said Bryan Danielson doesn't have a dad, and it's just like, oh,
yeah,
no,
literally.
no.
And as soon as you heard that, it's like, yeah, you get it. But this casino match though was such good fun. Like I said, it between that and the main event, it's probably my favorite match on the show.
Yes,
it was just
I
so
totally
damn
agree.
Good. So why don't we
this match?
Yeah. So why don't we sort of snake it backwards, as it were, and we sort of pick out another favorite match or moment from the show. We're going to sort of touch on the surprise and stuff specifically. So, Harriet, would you like to defer to Matty or would you like to go first?
Let Matty go first.
Oh God!
Defer to
Because
Matty.
I'm trying to find another moment myself.
If in doubt, I can pick one. Trust me, I've got one on standby. Just let me know.
I will talk about Ospreay and MJF.
Excellent.
Me and Cliff had a bit of a wager about is this going to be the match that sort of like went the longest, and I think ultimately it did. I'm just going to check that now.
I will double check while you carry on talking. In fact, I can tell you by 10 seconds, the Casino Gauntlet match was longer.
By a minute, but as an actual like match where there was like 2 participants. Oh no, it wasn't. Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland also went about 10 seconds longer.
Yeah, literally 10 seconds.
But anyway, that's fine. It felt like the longest at the time, and I will say that the right guy actually won, because this is the storyline that was like the long burn, in that Will Ospreay actually used the Tiger Driver. To this end, MJF needs to be off television for a little while because he needs to sell having this devastating move done to him. You do not make this a point for so long, to the point where Will Ospreay is scared to use it due to its devastating nature, and then just have MJF back in about a week being fine.
May I add a thought for you? For the record, I'm not disagreeing. I want to add to what you said.
That's fine.
So, after that match had ended and the celebrations happened, the lights went dark and it was the video package for the next match, a fun thing happened, which I pointed out to Ian and Harriet, in that they're clearing the ringside area, things are happening, they're clearing the ring, and MJF's just lying there.
He's still there.
He laid in the ring for virtually the entire duration of that video package, and it was like doctors trying to start rolling him over, and he just wouldn't roll.
He didn't walk in his own power.
I don't know that for sure, because at some point it just got too dark for me to be able to see. But I was watching, and he was just there, just in the exact same position he had ended in. He didn't move. It was great.
That's incredible.
So he did sell it.
That's incredible. He shouldn't be on television. I'm just going to say that one more time.
Yeah.
But don't even have it 2 weeks. Like, have him come back in about 3 to a month. If you're going to bring him back early, at best, if he's right in that he isn't 100% anyway, let him heal again. And then bring him back. But if you're going to bring him back, at least give it 3 weeks to a month.
It was a great match, though. Really great.
Yeah.
Really
Fantastic.
great culmination.
I loved it. Absolutely
I didn't watch all of it because I had to take a toilet break. But from what I watched of it, the entrances alone, especially, I actually said to the guys beforehand, I said, I bet you MJF is going to come out all American style. There's going to be flags, there's going to be cheerleaders and stuff like that. I was not disappointed. He literally went into a fancy dress store, went to the American aisle. Someone said, "What do you want?" And he just went, "Yes, I'll take everything." Literally.
Speaking of toilet breaks, Harriet, you want to tell us the other thing you meant?
Yes. So this might lead on to actually what I was actually going to bring up, the Hook and Jericho match, the learning tree. Fozzy did. Now, this was one thing that was kind of annoying, and I think me and Ian did discuss this, that when the Toni Storm and Mariah May match was on, you couldn't see, but from our perspective, Fozzy were doing a sound check, and it kind of was a bit distracting for us.
They rolled out the drum kit, and you could just see the members of Fozzy just walking down the ramp a bit to go to where they were. It was so random.
It was so weird. So we kind of like, I know I'm just focusing on the match, but also it did catch your view. So Fozzy performed, and I literally said, this is a mass exodus of fans. I bet you everyone's going to walk out at this point. Cue the point. I think Pete Quiddell put a tweet up, and I actually said, there's probably going to be a long queue. There was. Even the people in front of us was just like, I think they went to the toilet and they didn't come back for a while. Yeah, this was the point where I think the queue, I don't know for the women's, but I know for the men's, definitely was growing as this was going on, and it was just like, oh dear, this is not good. And I
Yeah.
it was just like, oh. But I think in comparison to last year when Fozzy did perform, we loved playing and singing along to Judas. This time, it was kind of, nah. It was very chalk and cheese, because obviously the whole thing of learning Shri is like Jericho's basically, everyone hates him. He's like, hi guys, sort of thing. I know you love me. And I wish he would have said, like, he noticed people walking out. Oh, it's nice. You're gonna go get some snacks for me. Great. Good luck.
Do you want to say, when you spoke to me on WhatsApp during this, what my response back to you was? She can't remember. I'll say it.
Okay.
I said to her, is it because his song is also shit?
Now, do you know, what I will say is this.
I didn't hear
when it comes to live performance, it wasn't the best performance across the board,
No.
in my opinion.
Do you know what
Jericho
makes it
did not sound good.
Do you know what makes it even worse? During the TV, I don't know if you guys got a hint of this, but the whole song was being played pre-produced as well. So they were effectively playing.
I was watching the band, and I'm not trying to flex a muscle. I have a habit of being able to tell when something's being mimed, and I watched the drummer, and I went, "Your drums don't sound live." And then about a minute in, I suddenly thought, maybe I'm wrong. But
there was some live things you could hear. They were strumming along to the song, and Jericho was certainly singing along to the song. But the song itself was also being played pre-produced. So he was effectively singing a duet with himself on his way down to the ring.
I think that sounds about right for his character at the moment, to be fair, how big up of himself he is and how much of a big-headed person he is. So maybe that kind of works. I don't know.
Do you know what also made it sweeter? That he couldn't get out of his trousers either.
Oh, we did see like him trying to take everything off, and it was like it was not working. Yeah, it's like MJF had a better grip of like pulling everything off rather than
speaking of grip, I will also say, and this is rather important, during the whole of that Ospreay and MJF match, I was being distracted by how hungry MJF's buttocks were the entire match. Like, it swallowed his trunks the whole time.
I didn't know. I think you had a better view.
Jamie gets it.
From how far back we were, we could not tell, unfortunately.
No.
Well, you can certainly tell when you're watching on television.
We didn't have a big screen. We didn't know.
And Jeremy, it's essential viewing for later.
There you go. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to pick one more moment, and then what I want to do before we wrap up is I also want to focus on like any other business things, but also obviously the main event, but also just the entrances in general across the show, because I think it's worth kind of highlighting some of them. But the other moment I want to pick out actually happened on the pre-show, because before the ladder match participants came out, suddenly Saraya and the entire Knight Dynasty came out, and Saraya was very annoyed that she was not on the show and proclaimed herself the Queen of England, I believe, to which we all roared at because the absurdity. Then we got some club music. We saw the words on the screen of Jamie Hayter. And to put it bluntly, we all lost our shit because we were so happy to see Jamie Hayter back. She looked so up for this. She was destroying the entire Knight family. Excellent viewing, even from very far away in the stadium. And I'm just so happy Jamie Hayter's back. And it's just so good she's back. And I'm glad she got to come back at Wembley, because she didn't get a Wembley moment at all last year. Just so good. I'm really happy Jamie Hayter is back and cannot wait to see her destroy the women's division in a good way, and that she'll be champion.
It also means a lot that two of the first people Jamie Hayter hit were some of the security, played by Rio and I think Lizzo from Eve.
I'll take your word for it, we couldn't tell.
They were they were. If you look back on some of the social media, you'll see the security lady with the purple. You have to forgive me, colorblind. I assume purple pink hair. She was Rio. So Rio from Eve, ICW, that sort of stuff. And then I can't remember who the blonde was. She was either Izzo or Charlie Morgan. But I do recognize her also from Eve and WCPW and stuff. So yeah, so there's a couple of faces there that I recognized.
It was at this moment I did have to go take another quick break. So literally, I literally left a voice message. Went, I left at the wrong time, didn't I?
That was what I was referring to earlier, Harriet. I said that's what you missed doing your loo break.
Yeah. To be fair, it was it's fine. I mean, to be fair, I rewatched it back on 0 Hour, so I was happy to see it that way more than anything. But yeah, it was good to see her back, I will say. And obviously, Saraya had to make some show of some form because we did talk about it. We were like, I wonder if she will show up at all tonight.
All I will say is, watch the media scrum. Because the
still need to watch that.
That was incredible.
If you want to see unfiltered Saraya, that's what you need to watch.
Do something with this. Khan, do something with this. Do something with it.
Khan!
Don't bury this on Rampage. For God's sake, Tony. For God's sake.
So I appreciate we've glossed over sort of a lot of things, but a couple of like quick mentions before we get to the main event, and then we'll focus on the any other business thing I mentioned. The coffin match in the stadium was a very interesting watch because a lot of it was on the outside. We couldn't see a lot of it, and also it felt like it ended very abruptly, and it was kind of in a way underwhelming. But I'll defer to you, Matty, if that was just because of the vantage point we did and or didn't have.
So are we talking about the vision overall, or just like the whole?
Just from your perspective on TV, like how was it? Because from our perspective, it was a very skewed experience.
So from my point of view, obviously it accelerates like all of the positives. So obviously we had the best view of the house by the fat, hard camera, all of that other stuff. Visually, I think we'd spoken about this earlier in the stream as well, but basically you couldn't tell the difference between the numbers from last year to this year. They did a really good job spacing everybody out. And now we know why. Because
sorry, hang on. Sorry, I meant the coffin match specifically. So Darby and Jack Perry, sorry.
Sorry,
my bad. My bad. I didn't articulate that. Sorry.
I will say, I will finish this point though, basically by saying that they needed to basically relax on the drone shots and certain things. One point being during Toni Storm's entrance, they did for some reason did a drone shot which went up the stadium towards an open door, but they picked an open door where only some people were sat around the whole thing and made the venue look really empty. And then they had like the video of basically Toni Storm, Wembley Stadium, 1924. 1924. Just that's what you guys missed. But going back to the coffin match, I'm gonna say this. For me, it was one of my low points. I wasn't really into it. I think some choices were made, and all it really did was make me go, huh? Like Darby's idea of gorilla gluing, as it turned out, he gorilla glued pins to his face.
I saw this after, yes.
And all it did was just make him look like a Cenobite from Hellraiser. Which is great, and it played very much into the match. But I'm there just scratching my head going, why? Why do that? But because he's Darby Allin. And I'll be absolutely honest, I'm not really fully there with this feud. Even though the whole point of it is they're just trying to murder each other. I think Swerve and Hangman did exactly the same storyline way more effectively. And it didn't need a whole lot of gore. They did have that. There is that, but you didn't actually need like the glass and all of the ECW-ness of it all.
Yeah, because I was even saying, is real glass going to be referenced in this? And it was. It had to be. I will say also when it finished, I was just like, is that it? I literally was just like shocked at how quick it ended. Yeah, pretty much. And I enjoyed this match, and I killed myself laughing because of all the things that Darby was doing, like whole diving into the coffin, the skateboard of Jack Perry, and then it was just funny in that way. And then obviously because it went up towards the ramp, and then we were like, oh, there's going to be a dive or something like that, and then there was. Then we couldn't see much more. We could only hear like, oh, he's using the body bag to drag him back to the coffin. So
and that's only because I had my binoculars.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was you who said.
Literally.
Yeah, that was it. It was. Yeah, thank goodness for those. But I tell you made a great investment in them. Yeah, and then when it got to the coffin, I think he did he kind of attack him at the coffin to make sure he was able to like knock him out to the point he put him in the coffin. I had that impression from
he did. He basically had one more sort of like respawn point in the coffin, and basically
so he sat up like the Undertaker, basically in a body bag.
Yeah.
Jack Perry technically sacrificed his knee by kneeing him in the face to knock him out once and for all.
Fair. And then when we heard the coffin go, we were just like, oh, then ding, ding, ding. And you think, oh, okay. And then obviously Sting came out after because the Young
which
Bucks
was
came
insane. Holy
heck, the crowd. As well as Nigel
Yeah.
McGuinness, I think that was another big pop that everyone went crazy for. I did film it as well, like the whole segment as well, from my perspective.
Was it as huge as Jeff Jarrett, though?
It was on par.
Do you know what? I think because there was no inkling we'd ever see Sting again in AEW. But when it was happening and like they started pouring the gasoline on the coffin and stuff, and people immediately went, surely Sting's got to save him. Like, it's the only logical thing at that point that would actually make sense.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, it was just
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that portion. I'm going to have to agree and a disagreement about this. I agree with this portion that he should be there, run down, because technically Sting is still a contracted person within the realms of kayfabe in AEW. Totally agree with that. I think doing a wrestling move in a ring does not warrant the fact that he's retired. I think that was a bit much. He shouldn't have been doing wrestling moves in the ring. He was retired. He's a reason. He's retired. Don't do wrestling.
The way I look at this might be a debate for something else entirely, but to sort of quickly summarize my thought, I have zero issue with him doing a death drop. If he did a match, like as in if he was like doing full-blown stuff like for a whole like 10-15 minutes, then that crosses the line with TNA unintentional.
I concede a dive. I do concede a dive.
Yeah. So, Matty, you mentioned something, and I want to actually bring this up because it'd be interesting, and we might run over a bit on the time. It's fine, I'll work it. But Maid Senpai brings up an interesting point in the chat, because you mentioned that the coffin match is probably a low point on the show, which we would agree with. But a very debatable point on that relates to Mercedes Mone's match with Britt Baker. Because I don't know if it came across on TV, but after the Casino Gauntlet match, after the Will Ospreay MJF match, the crowd needed a break. Literally, if you wanted to find burnout, we were all just like, oh my God, I actually need a few minutes to just process. And there was an exodus of everyone going, I need a break. And
everyone left at that point. Yeah, that was part 2 Jericho.
Yeah, this is the point I always make about AEW pay-per-views as opposed to what the WWE PLEs do now in terms of pacing. Disagree or agree as much as you want about commercials in WWE PLEs. What they give you is a moment to cool down between the matches. I think 30 minutes is a bit too much sometimes with some of their commercials, but it does give you a chance to basically stretch, go out. If you're at the venue, go loo break, that sort of stuff. Basically just reset. AEW pay-per-views don't give you that. AEW pay-per-views give you match after match after match after match with no breathing space in between. And as a consequence, it adds to the overall enjoyment or lack of enjoyment thereof of certain matches. And unfortunately, I think, as you say, this affected Britt versus Mercedes greatly as a consequence of that. With that being said, whether it's because of the backstage politics, again, affecting my overall enjoyment of this or not, this, again, wasn't one of my favorite matches on the card. In fact, I would say there are some 0-hour matches that actually I would put there above this match. in terms of relevance.
It's very interesting because to sort of add to that, because I was watching the match literally through my binoculars. I'm not even joking about it. I legit had a pair there. Harriet and Ian saw them. But like I watched it and I thought the match as a match was all right. It's just in terms of taking it in and the experience of it, it's the only match on the show which was greatly affected by its placement in terms of what had come before it. I think if this had come in between us, hypothetically speaking, because the final 5 matches were Casino Gauntlet, Ospreay MJF, Mone DMD, Jack Perry, Darby, Bryan Danielson. I think if the gauntlet had been moved to the slot where the TBS title match was, and then Mercedes Mone and Britt Baker came before the gauntlet match, I think that would have worked out better pacing-wise. Because the gauntlet match, everyone's going to be up for it. The coffin match, was basically going to be the equivalent of Stadium Stampede for this show, and people could take it or leave it. But then people were then ready for the main event. I just think this was an instance where the placement on the show didn't lend itself well. But the match as a whole, though, from what I saw through my binoculars and such, I thought it was all right. It's just, it was the biggest disconnect moment of the show, and it's a real shame because the build-up has actually been very good fun.
Yeah,
Harry, what about your take on this from your spec?
Yeah, same. I literally zoned out of this match. I don't know if it's because of the highs of all the other matches before it. Like you said, the placement probably was not great. But yeah, I did not connect with this match at all. I know Monet came out to a great entrance with the carriage and the whole thing of like the Queen. But as a match, I couldn't get into it. It was such a shame because it was just like, as you said, the storyline slowly had been building up, especially in the last few weeks. But no, I just really couldn't get into it. And obviously because you think, there's like 2 more matches next after that, and the coffin match kind of brought me back up again. But yeah, it's a shame because it was just like, and especially for a women's match. So from my perspective, I love women's matches, and because AEW is kind of somewhat infamous for not having as many, I should have really enjoyed this, but I didn't, and I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't. But also, I'm not now because if everyone else felt the same way. I'm glad I'm not like in the smaller category in regards to that. But yeah, it's a shame. I don't know where it's going to carry on from there because Monet as a heel is great. And maybe it might have been marred with the whole fact of what happened story-wise with Britt beforehand. I don't know. But also, yeah, I should have enjoyed this match, but sadly, I didn't enjoy it. This was probably like the lowest of the card for me, this pay-per-view.
I think Jamie's bang on the money here. I think if this was earlier on in the card, I think our overall enjoyment of it probably would have been a bit better. I think the match itself was relatively harmless. It's just its placement, but also my overall enjoyment of it was somewhat tarnished by the bollocks behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fair. So let's talk about the main event, because we've basically not talked about it at all in this. And again, we'll run long. It's fine. For context, folks, something going on. It's fine. I've managed to delay it. We're all good, so we're going to talk more. So, Bryan Danielson Swerve. Danielson came out to the final countdown. Freaking brilliant.
We did sing along. I popped
being
for that.
Being in a crowd that was very much a mostly British crowd. So I know people traveling from abroad and whatnot, but it being that song is just synonymous in the UK. Like it means something on a different level compared to elsewhere around the world. And I think even Danielson himself has admitted that. And just the passion and energy of us just singing along to that. And even as far back as we were, we could tell Danielson was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And the reaction of all of us, it was so good. Swerve's entrance was so damn good as well. And we can talk more about entrances if we have time and whatnot, but his entrance had such a poignancy to it. There was such an aura about it as well in its own way. And when this match started, because from my perspective, I said this to you, Harriet, and Ian and Matt as well, but from my perspective, when I first got into indie wrestling via like DVDs and stuff like circa 2004, the first guy I really saw on like the ROH stuff was Bryan Danielson main eventing. So for me, having literally for the past couple of decades seen so much of his career, the evolution of him, this was like I was in full-blown emotional, this might legit be it. Because I going in, either result I would have been fine with in terms of Swerve being champion or Danielson being champion, because I love Swerve as champion. But it was just that thing of, this might be it. I am just going to live in the moment for this.
Yeah.
And Harriet, you saw, I lived in the moment. I was an emotional pile of tears at the end of it. And most of the way through it, just, oh my God.
Yeah.
Harriet, pretty much, basically me and Harry we stayed up to about 1:30 this morning, basically having a chit chat about the overall experience and stuff like that. And and Harriet did bring up the fact that this actually had such a profound effect on you. So it's like, oh, bless him. And I think that was one of the reasons why the pair of us stayed up and basically made sure that you reported back that you were home as well, because like we were kind of
a long drive back, folks.
We all made sure everyone got back okay, because we were all kind of separated after. So
to basically accentuate your point, Jeremy, 2 other people had about the same reaction you did. Cliff in the live chat, I'll bring him up again, because that guy's an absolute diamond geezer, even if he doesn't think that about himself at times. This was he had an emotional time during this as well. It was him who brought up the fact that blood was spilt so early on wasn't needed and all of that. I agreed to a point. I think he was always going to get busted open. I think that time had a massive factor on why they took certain positions the way they did, because I believe on your end you basically had 10 o'clock kick out. So they had.
I'm trying to remember what time the match started. I don't remember.
I think it was about 9:30. I think.
Yeah, it was 9:30 when it started. When entrances started, it was about 9:31. So I kind of understand why things happened in the way they did in retrospect, but I do kind of agree with them that the bloodshedding was a little too much, a little too early.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Because from our perspective, we did not know until much later in the match he was busted open. When vaguely did it happen, or what caused the blood? Because we thought it might have been him being stomped on his face on the outside.
No, it happened when he literally got his bell rung. When I say when he got his bell rung, when he got dropped onto the bell.
So when it was the DVD onto the belt on the outside of the ring.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, that makes sense.
We did see the belt being used.
In the cameras, because it was a blade job. Basically, we saw the. I'm sorry. I'm going to
just carry on. Sorry, it was the way you said.
I'm going to destroy kayfabe. I'm going to destroy kayfabe, because no way did you see anything get opened up when he had his head dropped on that bell. But the camera cut away and went over to Swerve doing his Swerve things, and then when the camera came back, like literally, Brian had literally just cut himself open by that point. But no way did you
my
see
binoculars
that
there was a gash on his head. I could tell that.
Yeah.
We could see from afar, he was bleeding a bit down his face. So yeah.
So that happened. They explained in camera as a consequence from him being dropped on the bell. So going back, yes, so Cliff was an emotional wreck during this. I was also an emotional wreck, and I will explain why. I've had my ups and downs with Bryan Danielson, because this is a guy I recognize as being a very accomplished wrestler. I would say WWE was the best thing for him. I know that's a controversial statement. Him in Ring of Honor, best wrestler on the roster, was not the best promo guy. He was up there with the Bret Harts. I think that's fair to say. And I'm also a Bret Hart fan. WWE gave us a whole new level of Bryan Danielson, which we then got to see the overall gestalt version of his final form, as it were, in AEW.
Yeah.
I first saw the American Dragon, not even labeled as Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon in Bognor Regis in 2002.
Wow.
You're the second person to mention Butlins and Bognor Regis because it came up on the freaking media scrum as well.
Because that was the match I went to, Jeremy.
There you go. There you go.
I was one of the 45, as was my ex and her brother at the time. So I will always have that connection by being one of the first people to see Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson as the American Dragon wearing a mask, wrestling in a bingo hall part of Butlins with about 40 other people. And I will always have that. That will always be with me. That will die with me. I am really, really honored that I was there for that.
I think for me, this was the first time I have seen Bryan Danielson wrestle, because when he was in WWE, I never went to any live shows where he was wrestling. And like you said, like WWE had a big impact. I always still remember WrestleMania 30. The Monster promo is still one of my favorites of all time. The build up to that. And yeah, this match, I was emotional, but I kind of was more, I don't know how I was going to react to the end. I was either going to be a crying mess, or I was going to be jumping up and down with joy. And literally throughout the match, there was like a bar in front of us. And every now and then I'd be grabbing hold of that bar, banging the bar, like literally jumping up and down, because that's how much I got into this match. And it was kind of like, I don't know how this ends, but to be there, if this was his final match, it was an honor. But also the fact that this was his first championship that he would win was also an honor, because those are two moments that you will remember in that history of AEW, and especially at a pay-per-view and it all in. And I was just so glad I was there to experience that in real life with the group of friends. Like, I literally was just jumping up and down with joy after. But yeah, that's something you cannot take away. There are moments in my life I will remember, especially like wrestling content wise. That evening was just, that moment was just incredible, the ending, and just something that makes me really happy to be a wrestling fan and be part of.
Yeah.
Very well said.
It was at that point where the absolute like fruition of my FOMO that I had that entire day finally kicked off. I said, I should have been there for that. I really should have been there for that. I was there for one of his earliest matches. I should have been there for one of his last. And that's as much as being there in Bognor Regis in 2002, where there was also Vade Hansen and a guy dressed up like Spider-Man with the Aerosmith song as his entrance music. That also happened. As much as I had that huge thing of I was there for that, I also carry the regret that I wasn't there for that, if you know what I mean. I'm literally tearing up as I'm saying this. This is
I did see, like, even I'm tearing up, like, talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that emotion went out, the crying went out the window. And then, like, obviously I looked to, I have Ian cheering, like, arms in the air, like, proper happy. And then, like, so many emotions. And then to Jeremy, just like, yeah, very emotional, I will say. And understandably so. So, I mean, there was so many emotions. I think it was between the two of crying and like cheering. Oh, bless Matty. Oh, but yeah. God, even
Don't you start. You'll make me start.
Okay, I'll be quiet. But
well, you know what I will say is, like, I think that's encapsulates it perfectly. I can't add anything more to that than sort of what I've said already. But in terms of standout moments of the night, that is probably the biggest one of all, because it was the culmination of so much. And also, not that we could see it through the massive streamers and confetti, of which we'll talk about the streamers in a second, but maybe potentially, but just we could see the family were there in the ring. There was such a family dynamic in the match as well, from what we could tell. It was just so cool. But let's sort of as my voice cracks there, let's get into an any other business type thing. So if there's a couple of points we want to bring up, I've got a few that I can bring up for other things that occurred during the show. So, for example, like during Max Caster's promo, he described FTR as being members of the EDF, which we howled at. Which I will never mention them again on the stream. I just had to acknowledge that comment because we howled with laughter.
We all did lose it. We all did. There you go.
The Acclaimed.
Oh, I wish I had that one to match that one.
It was either that or that one.
I
won't say what happened with the story with the foam fingers, but.
What other randomness? Yeah. When it came to a bunch of like the entrances. So, fun fact, Matty, here's a little any other business thing you may not have known. You know, Mercedes Mone in her entrance came out in like a big chariot, like they're a member of the royal family and whatnot. Yeah. Could you tell that chariot was there the entire day?
No.
It was literally at the side of the stage the entire day. I was thinking, who's this going to be for? Mariah? Is it going to be for someone else? Yeah, and then eventually they pulled it forward. It's like, of course it's for Mercedes Mone. Yeah. Of course it is.
No, they didn't show it, but I don't know if you guys knew, but there was 2 corgis in there. There was
no idea.
They had two Welsh corgis, same breed that the Queen had.
Oh my god!
The whole time, and Stitch, if she's still in the chat, will vouch for this. All I was doing was being concerned for the dog's welfare because literally before that they were shooting off all the fireworks.
The pyro,
Britt Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was literally saying, okay, if those dogs weren't spooked there, I hope to God Mercedes doesn't have any pyro because I remember
that explains
Pharaoh
why she had
during
no pyro.
Cody's.
So if I may try and alleviate some fear here, not that I know obviously, but I could tell there was a lot of movement happening by the chariot, and it was like a long time before it started moving. Yeah. So my guess is that they probably had the dogs backstage and they brought them up, put them inside because let's just say that they've learned from the Pharaoh incident.
Yeah. When I think even when like Mercedes was halfway down the ramp, you could still see the dogs' heads bobbing up and down in the chariot. So I was really because hey guys, how do you know? Most of us here like dogs. So I was like, don't you
Yeah, I'm like in awe that happened that they were there because I love corgis, but also oh no, I hope they're okay, sort of thing.
There you go.
What other random moments? There we go. What other moments do we have? Tomohiro Ishii v Stokely Hathaway, match of the year candidate. It was phenomenal. Literally so good. Hook, Taz getting involved in Hook's match.
Yes.
That moment was so good. And that had one of the biggest reactions of the night, especially when Hook came out to the heartbeat from Taz's music.
Can we bring up a thing from the media scrum there, Jeremy? Because I'm going to say
that was Hook's idea, or
the fact that it was Hook's idea, but also if you're a part of journalism and hopefully you've done your research, don't ask a question to like the son of the guy who created the title and call it a joke belt.
Hang on. So hang on. We'll touch on this briefly, but what essentially happened was someone was asking a question where they referenced the fact that the FTW title was brought into AEW as a joke or as a joke belt. At which point, Tony Khan went into full-blown, I remember everything I've ever done in this wrestling business the past 5 years, and literally explained the FTW title and purpose for its first year. And it was that moment you're like, holy crap, Tony Khan legit knows everything. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily the guy got shot down, but he got firmly corrected for his wording. Let's put it that
way. And you could see the look on Hook's face as well when that was brought up. It was like, dude.
It was a moment.
I mean, to be fair,
Hook,
I think Hook is a really awkward interview anyway. I don't think he really likes being interviewed. But for also the question being in that way articulated, the fact I will give Hook this, the fact that he said, no, this was my idea. I actually bought the belt myself to AEW, you know. The fact that this belt not only means so much to Taz, it means so much to Hook as well. I think, okay. In kayfabe, the FTW belt is kind of brought up as a joke among the hierarchy up above. Like Cody Rhodes says, we'll put it on the flagpole, literally and figuratively. But the fact is, what this did was cement the idea that to Taz and the family of Taz, this belt means everything. And that can only enhance it. So we'll see going into the future what happens with this. But it sold me more on what this title means to Hook.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
Exactly. And a couple other random moments. The Young Bucks came out looking like they were the Beatles from Sgt. Pepper's, which was interesting. They were very dynamically coloured.
Can I point out something else there? During the match, Nick Jackson had a mustache. When he came back out later, Nick Jackson no longer had a mustache.
Oh, okay.
Wardrobe change. Tactical wardrobe change. There you go. What other randomness was there to mention? Will Ospreay's entrance. It looked cool from our vantage point. Couldn't tell you a damn thing that happened in it.
I know it was promoting Assassin's Creed, so I even said, it's like, is this the new Assassin's Creed game?
I think I brought this up on WhatsApp, but there was an unfortunate angle. It was great. The breaking was great. Watching the dancers, there was one unfortunate, unflattering camera angle where the camera was dead on, while the lady who was like leading the breaking was doing this this great head spin on the ground. But at that point, the smoke machine started rising up for Will's ascent on the Cody Baker,
no.
and it was coming out between her legs, making it look like she had severe flatulence while she was spinning on her head.
How do I move on from that?
Swiftly,
leave it to you. That's the segue to you.
Britt Baker got loads of pyro, which was great. I want to say this actually. Darby Allin's entrance in that stadium was so damn good. I don't know if it came across on TV, but they had like the sort of the mini sort of Tron all the way around the arena, where like they have like display like the All In logo. They changed it to be the rain effect from Darby's video, and it just looks so good. And him like skateboarding down half the ramp was just really, really good.
Yeah.
What other notes with regard to the show specific? Well, actually, you know what? The other bit of news that has come out. Let's sort of do that before we start to wrap out things proper over the next 10 minutes or so. But the next event, or confirmed event, I should say, in England is apparently going to be in London once again next year. It's not All In because that's going to be in Texas. It's going to be Forbidden Door. It's been announced for August 24th next year. Venue not announced.
I was about to say,
in London.
Like throughout all of because they kept promoting it during the show. I don't know if you guys ever got an advert, whether it was on screen or not. Don't know, but I know at one point Harriet actually said to me, "What are they saying?"
Yeah, I left a voice message. We were all screaming, "What happened? What happened?" Because everyone was going crazy.
Yeah, so they announced obviously Australia Grand Slam. We got a date for that. All that. It's a Saturday again. So yay, great for us who want to do reviews on that sort of stuff. But not once did they give a venue. So I don't know if they haven't quite figured that out yet.
They were discussing where it could be.
I don't think it's Wembley Arena for two reasons, or Wembley Stadium for two reasons. One, other people need to chip in. I think Maid Senpai, if you're still here as well, see if you can confirm this. I don't think they actually put the visual advertisement on to the live venue. But also, not once did they mention where it was going to be. So
it's funny you mentioned that because we were having this conversation and Maid Senpai has actually brought up what I said as well. They mentioned Stratford because that's where the Olympic Stadium is, or the now former Olympic Stadium, the London Stadium, if you will.
Where West Ham
which is where West Ham are. A lot of gigs happen there. If it's an outdoor show, I think it might be there. If it's indoor, much as I hate the venue with a passion, it's probably going to be the O2.
So brought up, if not Wembley Stadium, maybe Wembley Arena, but I don't think it's going to be because they would have said Wembley London.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, capacity of Wembley is only about 8,000. So
if it's if they're planning for it to be a smaller show, could be, but I think they're hoping for it to be as big a venue to match their Wembley match shows as much as possible.
Which, if it's going to be an outdoor show in August, London Stadium probably seems like a good shout at this point. I mean, there are other football stadiums around. I can't remember where I heard this, but during the day, I heard someone say that Tony Khan has said it's almost more expensive to run Craven Cottage, which is the home of Fulham Football Club that he owns, because of the area it's in, and something to do with like the infrastructure and the cost of it and permissions. Actually running a show there would actually be more cost ineffective. So there are other football stadiums that have decent capacity. I don't think that running a show at Craven Cottage would be the worst idea in the world, but then again, it's a very expensive area, so I imagine there are probably a lot of restrictions and stuff on that. But we shall wait and see. But on the any other business front, Harriet, then Matty, any other random thoughts throughout the day, things that occurred, random funny moments, things we may have missed, or things that you noticed at all you would like to mention before we begin to wrap up in the next few minutes? Anything at all?
Daniel Bryan's turned my brain to jello, so I'm really having a hard time thinking at the moment.
No Mox, because he was advertised.
Yeah, very good point. So, to add to that and to give context to let Harriet speak more on that, all around the building, all day, on the advertisements inside, Moxley's picture was on all the advertisements, did not show up once. So, Harriet, I ask you then, with that in mind, and to let you elaborate more then, were you annoyed in hindsight Moxley wasn't there?
No, I don't think I was. I was kind of more... I know what the matches are going to happen. I know why they advertise it, because he was one of like the originals of AEW.
Yeah.
So maybe that's probably why they had him advertised. But no, I wasn't really annoyed, to be fair.
He needed the time off for a reason. Look, the guy wanted a holiday for years, and circumstances kept him coming back. So, do you know what? I'm actually not that bothered. It's absolutely fine. And do you know what? You said this earlier, Jeremy. I'm in full agreement, because I've been thinking about this the whole time. And I even said in our little bunker chat, does this make Pac a member of the Blackpool Combat Club? Because I'll be there for it.
I hope so.
I hope as well.
Give it me. Give it me.
I mean, he went down to celebrate with Danielson after with the Blackpool Combat Club.
He had a smile on his face.
Was Pac there with them? I didn't notice that, actually.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, I watched it back.
I was
I
a
saw a
puddle of happy
graphic
tears at that
afterwards.
point. But
one of the last shots that we had on pay-per-view was we would assume the Blackpool Combat Club was out there with them, along with Brian's family. And there, front and center, right along with him, with a slight smile on his face, was Pac as member of the Trios Champions. And at that point, I said, Pac's got to be a member now. They can't. They got to have... Do you know, the dream, if it wasn't so much the fact that we know that there's that begrudging rivalry between Nigel and Bryan Danielson. Nigel McGuinness would be such a good fit as a new mentor to replace Regal. He would be such a good fit. But if we can't have that, I would love to have Pac with them. I mean, we know we're probably going to be losing the Lucha Bros. They don't even bring them up in commentary anymore. Pac is such a good fit.
I will say, actually, I mentioned this during the day, that I think the one thing I was... This isn't any other business quick thing from me, but I think one of the few things I was really gutted about for this show was there was just no Lucha Bros in any capacity, because Penta was there last year, Phoenix wasn't because of a visa thing, and we just didn't get them this year, and it's like, that would have just been an extra sweet thing, but I digress. Matty, any other business from your point of view, as it were? Any other randomness on television that occurred?
I'm literally just plowing through it right now. I think
how many times did Tony Schiavone and Taz fight on commentary? You know,
not that many actually. Really, not that many. Like commentary was more or less a sort of a bicker-free experience. I will say they didn't switch that many people out as much as they had done. Like obviously Nigel was switched out for the second half of the run. I will state this, and I'll state this with my dying breath. The one thing they should have done was put Nigel in commentary for that match, because that's what this was missing.
Maybe he was too tired. He had just wrestled a match, you know.
But for emotional weight, you needed Nigel there. You really needed Nigel there. It's like flipping... I'm trying to think of a better alternative. Like who would you have in commentary that has the emotional weight of like the person that he's always had that long-standing rival with, like down in history, without naming anyone who's turned out to be a bit of a knob. You really can't that much as an equivalent. Like maybe, like
on the spot, I can't think of anyone. But
no,
like,
same.
Like if you put like Ricky Steamboat in for Ric Flair's last match or something, you know, but it doesn't help because neither of them are particularly great on commentary.
To be fair, do you know what? To reverse it, even Danielson's great on commentary. Like some of the stuff he's done in recent times, he's been so good. Actually, okay, here's probably an example. Imagine what a heel Hangman Page would be like in a Swerve match at the moment.
Oh my god!
On commentary.
All right, no, got a good idea. If say that this pans out for the long run, say one of them retired and you'd have Swerve on commentary for his last match, or the other way around. That's the best thing I could say for overall experience and atmosphere. Having those two, like for whatever reason, one is there for the retirement match of the other. Oh, Great Muta wrestling Masahiro Chono.
Fair,
that's
actually,
another one. Those two.
Good shout. Yeah.
Yeah. I know
Makes
this goes over
sense.
a lot of people's heads, but me and Jeremy get it. You know what
No,
I
but
mean?
it does make perfect sense.
Yeah.
So, Harriet, want to make sure I give you an opportunity because I appreciate I've cut over you unintentionally a fair amount today. But any other thoughts from the live experience, from your point of view of Wembley, you want to make note of? Be it good, bad, indifferent, totally random and off the wall, anything at all?
I think I have said what I've said, but in all, I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, I told you and Ian when I was leaving before we left, I had been feeling really run down last week. I think it was like a build up of like the convention the week before, and because I did a lot of editing, and Matty is a key example of me telling me to get rest when I didn't. So that's my own fault. But I had everything done by the weekend prior. Still editing stuff, so by the time Thursday hit, I was not well, and in my head I was thinking, oh please, I do not want to be sick for this. And I was honest, this is one of the things I was really looking forward to this year because we bought them back in November. Even then I was hyped up, and I'm so glad I was able to rest up as much as I could, because I think, yeah, I'm really glad I was part of this. Got to experience it with you guys, got to experience it in the chat with Matty as well, and also with the crowd. And it's moments like that I treasure and I love. And just to be there to see all the moments that happened is incredible. And I mean, it's like when I went to the watch long with Ian with WrestleMania 40. It's kind of like those moments where things like that happen, you will remember. And even now, it's just like the defining moments of like, this year in particular is very important to me because it's a big milestone birthday. So it's kind of like, in all, like even this shirt, like I'm wearing it now, and it's just like, I want to remember this year, and I'm glad that this year has had some key moments, and this was definitely one of them, and I'm very grateful for that.
There we go. Matty, I'll give you a chance to answer any other business question by asking you, could you tell during FTR's entrance the place became a club venue?
Well, yes. I will also say, during Willow Nightingale and Ishii's match with Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway, I may have said in the chat, nothing but respect for our world women's champion, because Willow Nightingale needs the world. They need to
She's
move
a treasure.
on from her. They need to move on from her and Statlander after a while and just give Willow a proper program with somebody. Like, as much as I love Statlander as well, they need to quit each other, and Willow needs the freaking world because she was a fantastic TBS champion. What's
the heck? The heck?
I know. We're being invaded.
Well, on that note, folks, I think it's as good a time as any to start bringing the show to a close. So thank you very much for watching. In terms of upcoming bunker-related things, I don't know what that sound is, I'm going to be honest. But in terms of upcoming bunker-related things... That's so weird. Hang on, wait. Is it me?
No.
Okay, fine. I'm just going to carry on. Folks, bear with it. But in terms of upcoming Bunker-related things, this weekend it is WWE's Bash in Berlin, if I've got the name right. So there will be a review of some kind coming to BunkaMania UK. So expect that probably either late this coming weekend or early next week. Then I think the week after that, it's AEW All Out. So you can probably expect, at the very least in some capacity, there to be a review of that show here on BunkaMania UK as well. If you haven't already, make sure you check out BunkaMania Goes to the Movies. Just as, ironically, Good Decadane there has just said, don't forget, go to the movies. You read my mind, literally. Because it is Ian, Harriet, and Matty Boo talking about the new John Cena flick, Jackpot. Go watch that. It's a fun time. I assure you will have fun. But before we go, a quick chance to sort of give a quick plug to other things that we do on our respective channels. So, Harriet, what's the best way for people to find you and your endeavors?
There's the link tree down below, but you could also find me on Twitter at MangaGirl232, also on Twitch, Harriet_MangaGirl, and on YouTube, .com/MangaGirl232. I will be streaming for the first time this week on Tuesday. I'm not sure what time yet. It might be 8, it may be 9. I don't know yet. Needs to double check. Plus, tonight at 7 p.m. it's the final reaction, the season 4 finale of Monday Night War. So there was a build up to it where I was delayed. This is hence my editing reaction. So episode 24 went out Saturday, 23 was Friday. Tonight is the finale because it coincides with their finale being released today. And then after that, reaction wise, I know Starbomb have new stuff coming out at the end of the month in October. So and also I have to upload the Ketamania panel as well, so that'll be up this week, hopefully by Friday. I'm gonna give it a bit of time because I know it may not be well watched. I don't mind because I know I'm uploading this mainly for friends who have missed it, mainly because I have heard it did come out really well and I think it went well. So we shall see. But at the moment, if you want to find me, I usually tweet out when I'm going to do stuff next. But Tuesday, tomorrow, will be the first time you will see me live on my own in a while. So yeah.
Hey.
There we go. And Matty, how about yourself? How can people find your endeavors?
I'm way more simple and to the point. You can find me on Instagram and Threads under Matty Boo Super, but you can primarily find me on twitch.tv. Matty Boo Twitches. I'm taking a bit of a break. That was not planned. It's just that I've got more works happening around me on the times I would like to stream. So that obviously no streams have been forthcoming, but when I come back, we will be back with the matinee. We'll be back with Nightmare and a few other things besides, and I might do another playthrough of a Telltale game. At the moment, that is looking like The Wolf Among Us, which I have played before, but I do want to share with a few people who may not have played it themselves, just to show how much of an engrossing experience that storyline really is. Also, if you're that way inclined, there are also boobs in it as well, so you might like that. You might like that. Based on the comic book fables, if anyone's ever read that.
There's your unique
Jamie.
point, everybody.
I just look at Bigby, I'm good.
If you want to find me, folks, best way to do it is to find my link tree. But if you want to catch me streaming on my own channels, I tend to do it every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Good mutual friend of ours, Floney Claire. We are currently engaging in the Famicom Detective Club game on Friday nights, Emio, the Smiling Man. We're checking out the first few chapters of that in our own unique way with fun voices. So if you want to join us, you are more than welcome to. And to give him a shout out, of course, our cohort in crime, the Decadane Mr. Ian Bolton. He'll be live later this evening on Twitch, pending his voice holding up, we're assuming it is. And he'll be doing his special watch-along style stream as well. So if you want to find him, you can find him there at the Decadane accordingly on Twitch. With that being said, folks, from myself, Jeremy Graves, from Harriet, from Matty Boo, we've been BunkaMania Wrestling. Until next time, take care and have a nice day.